What's going on? Happy Monday. Welcome into Writer's Lock, presented by Stefan versus the Game on Facebook Watch. We got a great show planned for you. Reid Forgrave is going to swing by to talk some hoops. We'll dive into the numbers behind one of the worst baseball teams we've ever seen and the two matchups in tonight's NBA playoffs. All that and more begins right now from Los Angeles, California. All right, two playoff games tonight and two road teams with a chance to take a commanding 3-1 series lead in each of these games if Milwaukee can pull off the win in Boston and or if the Warriors can find a way to get the win against the Rockets. And consider this, teams that go up 3-1 in a best-of-7 series in the NBA playoffs win 95.5% of the time, 235-11. So it's not too much to say that the season could be on the line, is almost certainly on the line for both of these teams, particularly if the teams that are up 2-1 can get the win. Let's start with the Bucks and the Celtics. There's a lot of ways to break into this and to get into this, but the key, and this has been true since his Game 1 dud, is that Giannis Antetokounmpo is being Giannis Antetokounmpo. Again, the almost certain MVP this upcoming season is playing like it in this postseason. Just consider Game 3, 32 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists on the road. A big part of the reason Milwaukee has won 3 consecutive road playoff games. And speaking of Giannis, he had his own key to the game that was pretty interesting.
In the third quarter is like a new game, and we just try to come out there and try to set the tone. And that's what we've been doing. I think in the first game, we tried to come out there. We were just being sluggish, being lazy, not making shots, and we saw that in the film. And we tried to fix that. And these 2 games we played, we fixed that.
It's very adept by Giannis. Maybe we can get him to do some inside the numbers for us in the offseason after he's MVP, and who knows, maybe an NBA champion, because the third quarter, the data tells us, have been really critical in a lot of playoff series, and certainly including this one. He's right. Let me give you some facts here. Third quarter scoring. In that first game, when the Bucks lost, it seemed like the series might get away from them before it really began. Outscored Milwaukee 36-21 in that third quarter. They turned it around. Game 2, which we know they won, 39-18, their advantage, Milwaukee's advantage in the third quarter, and 40-31 in that Game 3 in Boston. Giannis is right. If they can continue to not buckle and shrink in the moment, third quarters, especially in the postseason, feel a lot like the end of fourth quarters and the end of the regular season. The energy starts to change and the nerves really start to kick in. If Milwaukee continue to play well in that third quarter, it shows them, it shows the Celtics, it shows the rest of us they're not afraid of the moment. I like Milwaukee in this game tonight, but I want to save that a little bit for Bill's big bet of the day here in a little bit. And next up is our Rockets-Warriors game. We've said this all along. It's been true every step of the way. It feels like a conference finals, in large part, with all respect to Denver and Portland. I think we know, that winner of Golden State, Houston's going to the NBA Finals, and almost certainly in the Warriors' case, going to be the betting favorites to win the whole thing. Now, there's a few keys here, and one is Steph Curry. And not that can Steph Curry dominate or bend the game to his will, though for Warriors fans that would certainly help, but can Steph Curry just start playing like the 2-time MVP and the prodigious three-point shooter who broke and recalibrated and restructured the game that we've come to expect in the regular season? I'm a Steph fan. But the hard truth is that Steph Curry has often not played well in the postseason. He's never been an NBA Finals MVP. He missed a big shot that Kyrie Irving then hit, part of the reason that the Cavs came back a few years ago, that 73-win season for the Warriors, and it was the Cavs, not Golden State, who were crowned champions. And just look at some of the information here, some of the stats. Just give you Game 3, for example. It was a dud for Curry, and that's putting it mildly and politely. 17 points, 7 of 23 from the field, 2 of 9 from 3, and that brutal missed dunk at the end that just sort of took the life out of that Warriors team at the end of the game. For the series, Steph is averaging 18.3 points per game. He's 8 for 32 from 3. And interestingly, Curry in the postseason, a quarter of his games, he scored 20 points or fewer. If you look at his points per game in the postseason versus the regular season, his three-point shooting, his field goal percentage, his player efficiency rating, if you dive into the data, Steph Curry is still very good in the playoffs, but he's not the player that we're accustomed to in the regular season, and that is a big part of it. Now, Here's the good news for Warriors fans, and a big part of the reason, even though Steph hasn't played well, they're up 2-1. And maybe going to be up 3-1. We'll see at the end of this game. Kevin Durant and Draymond Green have been awesome. KD has been dominating, 37 points per game, 53% from the three-point line. I got to look at it because the numbers are so mind-boggling. I got to make sure that they're right. In the playoffs, 36, 5, and 5ers averages. And we knew that KD or Steph, right? One, if not both, would be great. But Draymond Green has been amazing. Playoff Draymond. On the season, he averaged 7.5 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, 7 assists. It's good. 7, 7, and 7 is pretty good. In the playoffs, 13, 9, and 8. He was awesome in Game 3. The continued excellence of at least 2 of those 4 guys out there. That's why the Warriors are so hard to beat. It makes it tough even if you're Houston. And if you're Houston, one of your keys, Harden's got to be good. He's got to be great. We know what Chris Paul can do, but you need help. And Eric Gordon's been that guy often for this Houston team, something Chris Paul talked about after the win.
Gordy tough, man. I think sometimes we got more confidence in Gordy than he got in himself. You know what I mean? For real, because he has unlimited range. When you kick it to him and he 5 steps behind the three-point line, that's like a regular shot for him. Everybody else be like, wow, we used to it.
I mean, you see it there. There's the numbers, man. Game 3, the guy was a baller, the 30 points, threw in a block, threw in a steal, and you heard Chris Paul say it. Sometimes his teammates believe in him more than he does. If Eric Gordon can believe in himself, Rockets can pull maybe the win. It's basically a pick 'em. They're at home. I'm going to throw this in. I think it's interesting. The home teams, we know, have won the first 3 games in this series, and it's been a battle, been some great games, controversial overtime, been great. The Warriors have won a road game in 20 consecutive series. That's an NBA record streak that goes back to 2013. And again, if the Warriors win this game tonight, or conversely, if the Bucks win this game, they take a pretty serious chokehold on the series. I'll give you my predictions here toward the end of the show. But first, we're going to get predictions from Reid Forgrave and his take on the action from over the weekend on Writer's Block, presented by Stephen versus the Game on Facebook Watch. We're coming back here in just a moment on CBS Sports HQ.
Thank you, guys. Round 2. 48 minutes, man. Someone broke it.
All right, welcome back into the show. It's Writer's Block here on CBS Sports HQ, presented by Stephen versus the Game on Facebook Watch. And you're just watching young Mr. Jokic struggle with the microphone. Good thing he's pretty good at basketball. We're going to get a perspective on what Jokic has been doing, Kawhi's great, and it's just the NBA playoffs in general from my colleague Reid Forgrave. Mr. Forgrave, did you enjoy that little Jokic montage of microphone struggles?
Like the only thing the man can't do, apparently, is work a microphone.
All right, so Reid, we tend to get a little hyperbolic at times in the postseason, but Jokic certainly looks like, a top 5, a top 10 potential player trying to move past the moment. How good is this guy, do you think, in the years ahead?
I mean, I think he could be an MVP candidate. Frankly, he already was an MVP candidate this year. What's fascinating about these playoffs is for the average fan, the casual fan, you may not have watched the Denver Nuggets this season. You may have just been like, that's a team that's at the top of the West, but they're going to crumble come playoff time. Well, guess what? Like, this is Jokic's official star is born moment. Played in the All-Star game for the first time this season, and to be able to shine on the playoffs. Frankly, I'm not sure many people expected the Nuggets to be that great in the playoffs. Second youngest roster in the NBA, but for him to be able to play this well, it's incredible. He may be the best passing big man in NBA history. I know that sounds hyperbolic, but it's not. He has such a bizarre game that he becomes so difficult to defend. He's 7 feet tall and about as athletic as me. and yet he's somehow able to deke his way around guys. My favorite story about Jokic is last season when Paul Millsap comes up to him, and he's like, dude, this is your team. This isn't my team. And from that moment on, I feel like that's when Nikola Jokic really realized that he was a superstar in the making.
Reid, that quadruple overtime game, I mean, all the words, astounding, incredible, I'm sure exhausting. How do you think it's going to impact each of these teams in the next game?
Well, I frankly was amazed in Game 4 that Jokic was able to have a pretty good game. I thought he was going to be absolutely dead less than 48 hours after playing 65 minutes. Now they go back to Denver and play at altitude. I think it is a good thing for both of these teams that game wasn't played 2 days after the 4 overtime game, played at altitude, because then I think they would really be struggling. But what we saw in Game 4 was I thought that game converted from a series that was really focused on the big men, on Enes Kanter and on Nikola Jokic, to a series that was focused more on the guards. It was Jamal Murray, not Nikola Jokic, who won that game for the Nuggets, and it's going to have to be C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard who are going to have to play their absolute best, especially with a really banged up Enes Kanter. If the Blazers want to pull out this series just feels like it's going to go 7 games. These teams are so different, but so evenly matched.
All right, best of 3 series now, all the drama, all the excitement. Who do you actually think advances to the Western Conference Finals?
You know, I think it's the Nuggets. I picked the Blazers at the beginning, but ultimately you look at this series and I think home court matters a lot. And I think Enes Kanter's injury matters a ton. He's nowhere near 100%. Separated his shoulder in that last series. He's been an absolute warrior, but even when he is playing 100%, he's still a liability on defense. And to have to, you know, with Nikola Jokic having a little bit more rest before Game 5, with him going back home, and with Jamal Murray playing absolutely out of his mind, sure, the Blazers can win this series. Frankly, the Nuggets have done an incredible job limiting Damian Lillard, but you have to assume he's going to break out at some point. But you got to give the advantage to the Nuggets because of home court, because Nikola Jokic is impossible to defend, and because Jamal Murray has been, frankly, having his, the best past 4 games have been the best 4-game stretch, perhaps, of his entire career.
You know, that Raptors-Philly series is really interesting, and a tale of 2 stars. Let's start with Kawhi Leonard. He's been amazing. We know that. If he doesn't get enough help, do you think he can carry this team to his own victory in what's now a best of 3 series?
Look, not if the Sixers are playing their best. We knew going into this series the Sixers had more variance than any top-tier team in the NBA. At their best, when things don't go wrong, the Sixers are probably more talented and can play better than any team outside the Golden State Warriors. But things have gone wrong. Joel Embiid, whether it's a virus, or whether it's his knee, or whether it's drinking too many milkshakes the night before, he hasn't been right in 3 of the 4 games in this series. And when Embiid isn't quite right, the Sixers aren't quite right. They're going to trot him out there, even if he's at 50%, because he's Joel Embiid. He can do things unlike any big man in today's NBA. But to me, if you're the Raptors, you look at Kawhi Leonard, he's been playing like Michael Jordan. I mean, he's really been a Jordan-esque player, an MVP-level player these playoffs. This is what the Raptors paced their entire season for. But you need more than just Kawhi, especially if the Sixers are playing their best. Whether that's Kyle Lowry playing what I thought was a pretty decent game in Game 4, or whether it's Pascal Siakam going back to his non-injured self. Frankly, whether it's Marc Gasol, who I thought was the key to the Raptors' victory in Game 4, they need more than just Kawhi, especially if the Sixers are able to get their 4 stars playing better than they did in Game 4.
All right, Forgrave, I've known you a long time. I got to throw one hard question at you. Who's going to be more reliable in this series going forward, Joel Embiid or Kyle Lowry?
Oh, God, that's a hard question. I mean, Embiid's ceiling is so much higher, but he's been completely unreliable, frankly, these entire playoffs, if he even plays. But I'm not picking Kyle Lowry. I mean, Kyle Lowry turns into a pumpkin during the playoffs. I get that he had a really good game in Game 4, but it feels like those games are few and far between. So even Joel Embiid, even if he's playing at 50%, you have to pick him over someone like Kyle Lowry, who has, frankly, this long resume of playoff struggles behind him.
All right, so you're taking the Sixers then, I assume, to win the series?
Actually taking the Raptors. I know that doesn't make any sense, but I think Kawhi is that good. I think what Kawhi has done, especially when he's able to get some contributions from Marc Gasol, get something from Kyle Lowry. Hopefully Pascal Siakam's better. I mean, look, I'm a little bit stubborn, right? I picked the Raptors at the beginning of the season to win the East. I picked them at the beginning of these playoffs to win the East. I still think that their versatility and their depth is better than the Sixers. I know that the Sixers, at their best, again, they're the best team in the East. They might be the second best team in the NBA when they're playing at their best. I just think there's too much variance, not just with Joel Embiid, but with Tobias Harris, who's kind of disappeared during the playoffs. And then with Ben Simmons, who, gosh, he feels like he's been great on the defensive end, but he's been almost invisible on the offensive end during these playoffs.
All right, Reid, Celtics hosting the Bucks tonight. Boston 1.5-point favorites. Who do you like in this game?
I like the Bucks, man. Look, the truth about the Bucks is they got Giannis and no one else does. And as much as we want to focus on how Mike Budenholzer transformed this offense during this season, and it's remarkable. The way that you surround Giannis with the perfect players, you get him to drive and spread the floor, kick it out to three-pointers or take it to the rim. It's incredible. In retrospect, it's kind of obvious. Why didn't Jason Kidd do this to begin with last year? But what's so great about the Bucks is their defense. Their defense was number one in the NBA all season, and I think that's why we've seen them really dominate the Celtics the past two games in this series.
All right, Reid, Rockets hosting the Warriors. Obviously, it's a huge game. They're all big games. It was Rockets minus 1.5. The line has changed. It's now a pick 'em. Who do you like in that game?
I'm picking the Warriors. Why can't you pick the Warriors? Look, game one was bizarre. The Rockets got screwed by the refs. Let's be honest. If the refs call those fouls, pretty obvious fouls on James Harden, odds are the Rockets win that game. But the refs made it up to him in game three by not calling that charge on James Harden on that final game-winning shot, that floater in the lane where he very clearly charged, and Draymond Green took the charge. They didn't call it. So I feel like the refs are tied at one during this series. But the Warriors are simply the better team. Kevin Durant is playing like a man possessed during these playoffs, and you just have to assume that in time, Steph Curry is going to be able to turn things around. He's not been great, especially since he dislocated that finger. But the rest of the team has been, I think, really good beside him. Steph Curry is going to turn things around. Draymond's going to be this rejuvenated player, this lighter, faster, quicker player that we've seen ever since he dropped, 20, 25 pounds toward the end of the regular season. You got to pick the Warriors because, let's be honest, man, they're the Warriors. No one else is.
Reid Forgrave, my colleague here at CBS Sports HQ. Thanks for the time, buddy.
Thanks, bud. Talk to you soon.
Good stuff, as always, by Reid Forgrave. All right, we've got the Derek Jeter plan in Miami has led to one of the worst baseball teams maybe we've ever seen. We're going to go inside the numbers on the Marlins when we come back to the program here in just a minute. All right, what's up? Welcome back into Los Angeles, California. It's Writer's Block presented by Steven versus the Game on Facebook Watch. And right now, we're going to go inside the numbers on one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball, maybe in its history. Marlins lost again yesterday. They're 9-24. It's not good. It's 10 games back in their division. And we start as we go inside the numbers. These are all going to be pretty ugly, by the way. With the number 44, the Marlins have a win percentage of 27.2% right now. That puts them on pace to win just 44 games this season. Wow. The lowest amount since the 2003 Tigers, who finished with 43. Next up is minus 358. The Marlins have a run differential of negative 73 through those first 33 games. Prorated out, that means they're on pace to be outscored by 358 runs. That would be the worst margin since the 1800s. Next up is 45. The Marlins are last in the majors in a lot of categories, including home runs this season, with just 23. That is 45 home runs less than the Mariners, who lead the majors with 65 home runs. Minus 1.4 is next up on Inside the Numbers. That is their team WAR, negative 1.4, according to Fangraphics, which means if you replace every player on the field with their minor league replacement, they would outpace the Marlins by more than a win. And finally, actually second to last, 9,668. According to Baseball Reference, the Marlins' average attendance for home games is 9,668 dedicated fans per game. That is more than 4,000 fans less than the next closest ballpark. And finally, the number one, there's only one Derek Jeter, and at least so far, this is what it looks like when he's in charge of your baseball team and trades away 2 MVPs. I know, the whole Astros and before them Royals approach. We'll see if it works, but man, that is a lot of pain. All right, before we do Bill's Big Bet of the Day, Game of Thrones fan, you're still feeling a lot of feels, right, from yesterday? A lot going on. We're going to celebrate Game of Thrones with a little chasing the throne here, NBA style on Writer's Block. It is This Week on the Throne. Here's how it works. We present you 4 participants, 4 combatants in trial by stat, and you can go to Sports Reiter on Twitter, Sports Reiter, and you can vote for the winner. We got Kyrie Irving, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kevin Durant, James Harden, who will be the dominant force tonight and claim for the week the Iron Throne of the NBA. You know what? I know he's on the road, right? It's the safer bet is to take one of the 2 guys who are at home because their team usually more likely to win. I'm going Giannis. Since that Game 1 debacle, he and the Bucks look like what they were in the regular season, which is the best team in the NBA. I think Giannis is dominant. I like Milwaukee to win that game tonight, and I'm taking Mr. Antetokounmpo for me. Now, we want you to vote. We'll reveal the winner tomorrow. They will dictate who the winner is in trial by stat, but give us your vote. Twitter poll, Sports Reiter, Sports Reiter. And before we sign off, it is time for Bill's Big Bet of the Day. Yeah, those are boos. Lost that Raptors bet, 13-11, clinging to respectability. I'm going to double up here. You know what? I'm going to take the Warriors and the Rockets are a pick'em. I'm going to go Warriors, which you see there, and just off the cuff right now, just feeling it because I just took Giannis. I'm going to go Bucks. I'm going to go Bucks too. I think it's Bucks plus 1.5. Whatever the line is, I'm taking the Bucks and I'm taking the Warriors. I'm betting both. I'm doubling up today. I'm either 500 tomorrow or I have a very comfortable margin. Thank you for hanging out here on Writer's Block, presented by Stefan versus the Game on Facebook Watch. We appreciate you. The guys are taking over in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They'll catch up on what's trending in the world of sports. Sportsline in 30 minutes, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific.